History is not a straight line of peace and progress, but a series of turning points often decided in the dust, blood, and fire of the battlefield, where the courage of soldiers, the brilliance of commanders, and the fate of nations collided in moments that changed the destiny of the world forever. And today, we explore the 10 greatest battles that transformed civilizations, beginning with the Battle of Marathon, 490 BC, when the mighty Persian Empire, under King Darius, sought to bring Greece to its knees, and the Athenians, though outnumbered nearly 3-1, marched to the plains of Marathon to defend their freedom, relying on courage, discipline, and the phalanx formation, and against all odds, they crushed the Persian forces, sending shockwaves across the ancient world, for had they fallen, the spark of Greek democracy, philosophy, art, and science might have been extinguished, changing forever the course of Western civilization, a reminder that sometimes a small city-state can stand against an empire and alter history. And from there we move to the Battle of Gaugamela 331 BC, where Alexander the Great, one of history's greatest military minds, faced King Darius III of Persia on the open plains. With the Macedonian army heavily outnumbered, but guided by Alexander's brilliant strategy, as he exploited the gaps in the Persian lines, launching a decisive cavalry charge that broke their ranks and sent Darius fleeing. A victory that not only ended centuries of Persian dominance, but also created an empire stretching from Greece to India, spreading Greek culture, art, and science in what became the Hellenistic Age, laying the foundation for countless future civilizations, proving that one man's vision of conquest could transform the entire ancient world. And then comes the Battle of Cannae, 216 BC, during the Second Punic War, where Hannibal Barca of Carthage achieved one of the most legendary tactical victories in history, using his smaller, more mobile forces to lure the massive Roman army into a trap, encircling them in a deadly double envelopment that slaughtered nearly 50,000 Romans in a single day, a battle so shocking that it remains a textbook example of battlefield genius. And though Rome ultimately recovered to win the war, Cannae remains a warning of how brilliance and boldness can overwhelm even the mightiest state, leaving its legacy in every military academy ever since. And next we travel to the Battle of Hastings, 1066 AD, a clash that forever altered the destiny of England, when William, Duke of Normandy, claimed the throne after the death of Edward the Confessor, facing King Harold at Hastings, where Norman cavalry, archers, and tactics overcame the English shield wall, and Harold himself was killed, giving William victory and ushering in a new era of Norman rule, transforming England's language, culture, architecture, and politics, laying the groundwork for the kingdom that would eventually become Great Britain. And from there we move to the Siege of Jerusalem, 1099 AD, during the First Crusade, when Christian knights, driven by zeal, marched into the Holy Land and besieged the city of Jerusalem, storming its walls after weeks of brutal fighting, slaughtering defenders and seizing the city. An event that not only reshaped the medieval world, but also ignited centuries of conflict between Christianity and Islam, leaving a legacy of mistrust, cultural exchange, and shifting alliances that still echoes in global politics today. For the Crusades were not just wars of faith, but wars that connected East and West through trade, knowledge, and bloodshed. Then comes the Battle of Agincourt 1415 AD, fought during the 100 Years' War, where the English king, Henry V, with a small, weary, and starving force of around 6,000 men, faced a French army nearly 3 times their size. Yet through clever positioning, muddy terrain, and the devastating power of English longbowmen, the French knights were cut down in waves, suffering massive losses. And Agincourt became a legendary symbol of how discipline, technology, and leadership could overcome sheer numbers, marking the decline of medieval chivalry and the rise of modern warfare. And soon after, the world witnessed the fall of Constantinople, 1453 AD, one of the most important turning points in world history, when the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, with his vast army and the terrifying new weapon of giant cannons, laid siege to the Byzantine capital, Constantinople, the great city that had stood as the jewel of Eastern Christendom for over 1,000 years. And after weeks of relentless bombardment, the walls finally crumbled, and the Ottomans stormed the city. ending the Byzantine Empire once and for all, reshaping the balance of power in the region, closing the overland trade routes to Asia, and forcing Europeans to look westward, a decision that sparked the age of exploration, leading to Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and the discovery of the New World, proving that the fall of one city could change the course of the entire planet. Then comes the Battle of Waterloo, 1815 AD, where Napoleon Bonaparte, the most brilliant general of his age, made his last stand, facing the combined armies of the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian commander Blücher. And though his genius had carried him to victory time and again, on that rainy June day his luck finally ran out, as the Allies held firm until reinforcements arrived, crushing his army, and ending his reign forever, reshaping Europe through the Congress of Vienna, which redrew borders and brought a century of relative peace, but also laid the foundations for the national rivalries that would later explode into the world wars. And from there we enter the modern era, with the Battle of Stalingrad 1943 AD, a clash of unimaginable brutality between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, as Hitler sought to capture the city bearing Stalin's name, only to find his armies trapped in a frozen hell of urban combat, where every street, every building, and every room became a battlefield. And after months of bitter fighting, the Soviets encircled the German Sixth Army, starving and bombarding them until surrender, marking the turning point of World War II in Europe, breaking the myth of Nazi invincibility, and beginning the long Soviet march westward to Berlin. And finally, we arrive at the D-Day landings, 1944 AD, when on June 6 the Allies launched the largest amphibious invasion in history, storming the beaches of Normandy under heavy German fire, suffering horrific casualties, but ultimately breaking through, securing a foothold in Europe, and beginning the liberation of France, the fall of Nazi Germany, and the salvation of Europe from tyranny, for without D-Day the world might have remained in the shadow of fascism. And so from the plains of Marathon to the beaches of Normandy, from spears and shields to tanks and aircraft, these battles were more than just clashes of armies. They were turning points of history, moments where the destiny of nations and the shape of civilizations were decided in the fire of war. And they remind us that though empires may rise and fall, and generals may win and lose, it is often in a single day, a single clash, a single decision on the battlefield that the entire future of humanity is rewritten.